Let's go over the solutions to applications of functions in business and economics exercises. So for example, Backpack USA Incorporated manufactures backpacks. The fixed cost for one style of backpack is $5,400 per month. That means it costs about $5,400 per month to run the operation for utilities, rent, salaries that are automatically have to be paid, electric bills, stuff like that. Materials and labor for each backpack of this style is $27. So that means it costs $27 for each backpack you make. And the company sells the backpacks to the dealers each for $42. For this particular backpack, let's write the function for the total monthly cost, revenue, and profit. So remember, our cost is our total cost. We have how much you have to pay no matter what, plus how much you have to pay per backpack. So that turns out to be $27 per backpack, where X is the number of backpacks, plus no matter what, even if you sell 0 backpacks or you make 0 backpacks and this term completely goes away, you still have to pay $5,400 in fixed costs. Remember, your revenue is price times quantity, so how much you're selling them for times how many you sell, 42x. And then our profit is revenue minus cost, so we'll take this entire revenue function and subtract off this entire cost function. I need to make sure that I distribute that negative, so subtract the 27 and the 5,400, combine like terms, and I get a profit function of 15x minus 5,400. Along this same example, what is the profit from the production and sale of 500 backpacks? So remind what our profit function was, 15 times however many backpacks you produce and sell, minus 5,400. So that's telling you if you sell X backpacks, this profit function will give you how much money you make in profit. So if I want to know the profit for 500 backpacks, I'll plug in 500. 15 times 500 minus 5,400 is $2,100. So what does that mean? That means that if you produce and sell 500 backpacks, you'll make a profit of $2,100. So how many backpacks does Backpack USA need to produce and sell in order to break even? Recall from a previous video that you need to break even when either your revenue is equal to your cost. So we'll take our revenue function and set it completely equal to our cost function and solve. Multi-step variable equation with variables on both sides. Subtract that 27x, divide by 15, and we get 360. But the other way we break even, if your revenue is equal to your cost, so you made the exact amount of money that you spent making your product, that means there was no additional money or your profit is 0. So we'll take our profit function, set it equal to 0, add 5,400, divide by 15, and notice here, again, either way you do it, you'll see that you need 360 backpacks in order to break even. So Backpack USA also produces a stylish shoulder bag. Suppose the profit for this production and sale of X shoulder bags is linear, which means y equals mx plus b. It's a nice linear function. And the marginal profit is 25. Recall from a previous video that marginal profit is the slope of the profit function. So this is telling you that it is a line and the slope is 25. Now, what we know is that when we sold 150 of these shoulder bags, the profit was $2,000. So let's start right away. We know that the marginal profit is the slope, so that the slope is 25. So our function will look like this. P of x equals 25x plus b. Now we need to figure out what b is. Well, we know that P of x, the profit, is $2,000 when x is 150. So we can plug that in and solve for x to get negative 1750. So our profit function is 25x minus 1750. Let's take this another step further. This is a tricky one. If Backpack USA sells each shoulder bag for $45, let's find the cost equation. Well, what does that mean? If they're selling it for $45, then that tells us that the revenue is $45 per backpack, or that the revenue is 45x. Well, we just discovered on the last slide that the profit was 25x minus 1750, and we know from a previous video that profit is revenue minus cost, and cost is what I'm looking for. I've got my revenue right here. I've got my profit right here. So if I plug this in and I solve for my cost, subtract 45, I get negative 20x minus 1750 is the negative cost. So now I can either divide or multiply everything by -1, whichever one you feel more comfortable with, and we get 20x plus 1750 is equal to our cost. So our cost function is 20x plus 1750. An outlet chain has found that for a particular brand of mini television sets, the monthly demand is 270 TVs when the price was $750. So what does that mean? That means when they were charging $750, they sold 270 TVs. But when the price was $360, the monthly demand was 360 TVs. So if you lowered the price, the quantity went up, the demand, right? Law of demand, law of supply. Assuming the demand function is linear, again, your y equals mx plus b type thing, write the demand equation. But we're going to let P represent price and Q represent quantity. Q here is the independent variable. The quantity is going to tell you what you want to use as your price. So your price depends on your quantity. So your quantity is the independent variable and your price is the dependent variable. So instead of y equals mx plus b, it's going to be p equals mq plus b. So your q takes on the role of x and your p takes on the role of y. Now think about it. Our ordered pairs were x comma y, but here, since x is represented by q and y is represented by p, our ordered pair is going to be q comma p. And so our line will be, again, p equals mq plus b. Now we have two ordered pairs hidden in here, quantity comma price and quantity comma price. And so what this is just asking you to find the equation of the line given 2 points. First, we'll find our slope. We'll take the y from our second point minus the y from our first point over the x from our second point minus the x from our first point. But of course, there are p's and q's. So p2 minus p1 over q2 minus q1. And when we do that, we get negative 120 over 90, which reduces to negative 4/3. So now we have a slope. Pick a point. It doesn't matter which point you pick. They're both on the same line, so they're both going to give you the same equation. So you can choose this point or this point. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to use that slope of negative 4/3 in the point 270, 630. And I'm going to find my p equals mq plus b. So I'll plug in m, q, and p and solve for b. So let's see, this is a negative times a positive, so this value will be negative. 3 goes into 360 12 times, or 120 times 4 gives me negative 480. Add 480 to both sides, and I get b equals 1,110. So my demand equation is p equals negative 4/3 q plus 1110. Now, suppose further that we knew that the supply equation for these mini TVs, typo, sorry about that, for these mini TVs is p equals 26/3 q plus 40. Let's find the market equilibrium. From a previous video, we know that market equilibrium is when supply equals demand. Well, here's my supply, here's my demand. In order to set two equations equal to each other, they have to be in the same form. Notice this is P equals, and this is P equals. So then, since I know P equals A and P equals B, that means that A must equal B. So that tells us that 26/3 Q plus 40 must be equal to negative 4/3 Q plus 1110. You can set two equations equal to each other as long as they're written in the same form. If you knew A was equal to B and that A was equal to C, then that would tell you that B is equal to C. If you knew X cubed was equal to G and you knew that X cubed was equal to H, X cubed and X cubed are the same. They're in the same form, so then that means G must be equal to H. So as long as they're in the same form, you can set them equal to each other. All right, so let's solve this equation, multi-step equation with variables on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and add 4/3 Q to both sides. Notice the denominators are already the same. So 26 plus 4 over 3 gives me 30 over 3Q. Plus 40 equals 1110. Now 30 over 3, that gives me 10Q. Subtract 40 from both sides and I get 10Q equals 1070. Divide both sides by 10 and I get that my quantity is 107. But I'm looking for market equilibrium, which says how many you need and what price to sell them at. So I know I need 107 television sets. What price do I need to sell them at? Well, you can plug it 107 in either to your supply or your demand equation. It doesn't matter which one because this is where they're the same. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the demand equation. Negative 4/3 times 107 plus 1110 gives me 967.33 repeating. Now, if you had plugged in 107 into this equation here, you should have gotten the same thing. So this tells us that in order to reach market equilibrium, we need to sell 107 TV sets at $967.33 each. All right, that's it for now. See you next time.